Welcome to the Gritty Mamas podcast. I am here back in my closet. I feel like it's been a little humbling, to say the least, after being in such a beautiful place at Sundara. But everyone's traveling. It's Memorial Day weekend. Carly is gone. Whitney and Mark have been gone, so I don't have the privilege of just walking into Sundara, because it's a holiday weekend, and I've got a bunch of dogs here. So it's hard to leave them. I've got kids in all different places. I have to pick people up. And so I was like, well, we are going to go old school. And it's not that old. So here I am back in my closet. I got a few dresses here. Oh, look, if you're not watching, this is one of my bridesmaids' dresses. We had brown was our theme. And here's a baptism dress, the one I was baptized in, and the one that Kenya was just recently baptized in. But so this is legit my freaking closet. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. I put a post out, or something in my stories that said, I'm ready to do a Q&A. I don't feel like the bounds or like the handcuffs of the court as much anymore. And so let's just do this. I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't seen some of these questions I've seen, but some of them are going to be me seeing them and reading them for the first time. So hopefully I can answer factually, truthfully, and not have a lot of emotion in there, because it's just matter of fact today. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. I'm missing Carly, missing our awesome headphones and sound equipment and lights. I don't even have my lights set up. I'm in my closet. I've got the window shining on my face, which is probably too close. Like anything that you see that's good is from Dr. Cope. But here we go. I'm even using my phone just right here. We are here's all. If you're looking on YouTube, I have a ton of questions that I'm just going to start answering. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. How do women, this is, maybe I shouldn't say who it's from, but here's the first question. How do women with no money get a good attorney? All require a substantial retainer. This is true. Oh my goodness, especially when you're caught off guard and when you're hoping and praying for months and months that he's not going to go through with the decision, and you are convinced in your heart that he will never do this and that he'll come back. Like, I wasn't preparing. I think for women that know they're going to leave, start putting money aside now. Start taking, $100 of cash here, when you go grocery shopping, get some cash back and start just kind of stuffing it away. If you think he's going to find it, if you think he's going to know about it, like give that money to your mom, give it to a friend, and just start a little personal stash. If you think that you are, going to be leaving, but you don't have the resources or the financial ability yet, because they can retain between $2,000 to $10,000. And so I think my first retainer was $5,000 for my attorney, and then probably the same for the second. And I've just always been a saver. I don't spend very much, and I kind of had to save because his job was so unpredictable. So it was my savings. It was my savings that I was using for kids, for a new car, for college for them. Like, I had to pull from there. So it sucks. It sucks bad, but it just starts stashing it away little by little. Next question, does the petitioner ever have all 8 children at once? The answer to that is no. He has had all 8 of them at once, one time, maybe 2 times, but that was only because it was court ordered and he had to go to an appointment with the guardian ad litem. A guardian ad litem is a attorney for the kids. Supposedly, it's actually not an attorney for the kids. It's another court appointed attorney who is there for the money, in my opinion, because he was not there for my kids. But we were both ordered to go meet with the guardian ad litem, and so it was then that he went and picked up all the kids from school. And mind you, he had to ask me where they went to school, and took my van, which I willingly let him do, which he then dented and crunched into a pole or something, according to my kids. So that was extremely frustrating. But the guardian said, I don't care what you have to do. You pull them out of school. And this is during RISE testing at the end of May last year, or maybe the year before, but I was fuming upset. But since then, since those two little visits, no, he has not had all 8 children ever in the last 4 years since he left. Next question. How much time, I mean, these are probably all going to be kind of the same. How much time do your kids actually spend with their dad? It depends on which kid. My 3 boys, Ari, Treyu, and Nico, are the ones that normally go. But having said that, Nico kind of just goes when he pleases. And he is 6 years old. And so it depends on who's doing the more fun thing. I mean, who wants to stay at home with mom on a Saturday afternoon to do chores and to learn how to mow the lawn and to pull weeds and do your laundry and make beds and vacuum when you can go to Disneyland down the road and go swimming and go to Boondocks and go to Nickelcade and all the things. So I don't ever say, well, we're going to do this and well, we're going to do this. I don't do that. We just live our lives. And Nico, for example, is supposed to be there this weekend and he chose to stay. And it's not like we're doing anything better here, believe me. Like at the moment they got to go swimming, but that's why I'm in here. But he kind of just decides what he feels like doing. Ari adores the petitioner and loves him and is desperate for him to come back. And Treyu is kind of right down the middle. He's like fine either way. He doesn't really care if he goes and doesn't really care if he stays. But it's Ari that struggles the most and wants to be with him the most. And the other 5, there is no contact, maybe a text every 6 to 9 months. So no, he does not. They, I guess, equally don't spend time with him and he doesn't spend time with them. What is Alex's excuse? This is the next question of why he left and why he didn't see his children. His excuse of why he left, he just kind of imploded one day. And in a nutshell, said that I was controlling, said that I made him feel like a little kid, like he was a second-class citizen. He said I wouldn't let him fail. I was like, really, bro? Because you failed a lot of times. And so have I, I mean, that's partnership. It's being there for each other. And sorry, I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get through a bunch of questions and I'm already 7 minutes in and I have a ton of laundry to do. And I got to do this before kids come home and before I have to go pick up another one. You should see my setup. I'm just sitting here on a stool in the closet, holding my phone, watching my computer to make sure I have all the power and holding my little microphone because it's not as high tech as the ones at Sundara, but it's made me very grateful for them. But yeah, I was controlling, told him what to do. He said at one point that I took his manhood from him. He said that I, like I said, never let him fail, that I ran the ship. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong on a lot of those things as far as controlling. And someone had to be. When he was traveling, when he was out of town, I was the one that was mowing the lawn. I was the one putting getting the oil changes in the car, figuring out the sprinkling system, using a huge auger to unclog toilets, 8 months pregnant, getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner, getting kids to school, carpooling, getting them to their activities, getting them to doctor's appointments and dental appointments. And I mean, you name it, I did it all. And so when he would come home, I would have to stroke the ego and make him feel like he was the man. And there were times where I would go and buy some fun little trinkets at Walgreens when he would come home from a 2-week trip. And I'd say, here, give these to the kids, as though you brought them home. And he was like, oh, yeah. So, I mean, I felt I was probably controlling the relationship with him and the kids, hoping and trying to make sure that it was grounded and solid and they felt love and he felt love. And I was managing everyone's emotions and the whole household. So controlling, yeah, I did control. And that's because someone had to step up to the plate. As far as taking his manhood, I mean, it's pretty cowardly to walk out on your family, so I don't think that was very manly. I think you pulled your manhood card or your man card away from yourself. And then treating him like a second-class citizen. I mean, that one I can't get on board with. I can't understand. I never saw his color. I never saw the fact that he was British or not even a citizen of the United States until 2012, which was thanks to my citizenship. That was, I thought, unfair and uncalled for. I'm sure there's a ton more reasons, but that's what he told me. And that's what he wrote to me in a big, long email explaining that I basically am the reason he's not successful. And that he had done when he left for Vegas, he had done more in the 2 months that he was in Vegas than he had the entire 15 years at that point that we had been married. So that hurt really bad. Um, and for a long time, I was, the gaslighting was really effective, and I felt like I was the reason he wasn't successful. I was too negative. You always said I was too negative. And there are times when I see the glass a lot more half empty than I do half full. There were a lot of times where I didn't feel fulfilled in my life and felt, I don't know, maybe gypped on things, even though I was so blessed to have so many kids. And well, it was your choice to have all these kids, and that's true. But there were still things that I wanted to accomplish, and I still had ambitions and dreams, but everything went into supporting his, and everything about mine and my own identity just kind of was thrown out the window. And I was happy to do that because I grew up in the LDS church, and that's what we do as Mormon mothers. We forget ourselves and we stay home with the kids while the spouse makes the money and gets acknowledged and praised and climbs the ladder of success while we just kind of, steer the car at home and manage everything. And so I just was doing what I thought was righteous and consecrated and sacred. And it was. I still believe that it was, but it was also at the cost of myself and my future, knowing now what he has done. The next question is, this is another, does Alex ever see the kids? It doesn't seem like it. Can you just tell your kids that they're beautiful inside and out, just like their mom? Thank you. That's super nice. What's happening with your crazy neighbor? He has what's it called? A hearing on June 4th. They might subpoena me to go and testify, which I am happy to do. So he's been really awful because that's coming up and he's just mad. But every day is a swear word. Every day is a new flip off, like both fingers. Every day is you effing N-word to one of the kids. It doesn't matter who. Every day, if someone comes to my house to deliver something, the Amazon man, if my mom is dropping off something, he's flipped off my mom. He's honking at people. He's yelling at neighbors that are talking to me and calling them N-word lovers, like hard R N-word lovers. And so we have a detective assigned to the case, and I'm just emailing him and texting him. I'm really good at documenting after 4 years of practice. And so I just kind of keep my notes, open him up and say, today he called Xander the effing N-word and revved his engine and sped up and scared Ari or whatever it is. And so I just document it all. I send it to the detective, and then he submits his reports to the district attorney's office, and they will hopefully elevate this to a hate crime, and hopefully he'll go to jail. But with my luck in the family court system, nothing happens. There's no consequence. There's no accountability. It doesn't matter if you don't pay child support. It doesn't matter if you don't pay alimony or support your children that you helped create. But hopefully criminal law is different than like civil litigation. So that hearing's coming up, and he'll probably get a slap on the wrist. How many of the kids do visits with dad? Are they forced? Yes, they are ordered to go. That's why there's all these things called reunification camp, because if the kids refuse to go, then the judge will order the kids to go, and they order the mother to make it happen, or whoever the protective parent is. So then these kids push, refuse, resist, refuse. And that is why we have the nightmare upstairs by it's my cute friend Jessica and her 2 kids, Ty and Bryn, who barricaded themselves in their own bedroom, cut a hole in the wall that could get to the bathroom, and would cook ramen in the sink and would, just do everything with hot water. And they live streamed on TikTok I think they were there for 2 months in their bedroom because they refused to go with their abusive dad. And the courts ordered it, and they were even told to, I don't remember the terminology, but basically break it down and take whatever measures are necessary to get in and take those kids. And they're obviously taken against their will. Like, how am I going to force a 15-year-old boy who is a lot stronger than me at this point and taller? How am I going to force him to get in the car? But it's the mothers then that are held in contempt and sent to jail. So yeah, they're all ordered to go. But I've told them for 4 years, go get in the car. He's here. Go pack your bag, go get your things. And it was my job to get them out to the sidewalk. But I drew a line. I refused to open the door of the car, put them in the car. I'm talking about toddlers, put them in the car, get their seatbelts on, make sure that they were secure, put their bags inside while he just sat in the driver's seat and let me do all the work. I refused. I would not do it. And so I would film the exchanges to show that I was not withholding, I was not alienating, and I would take them out to the front. And I'd say, go get in the car, and the kids would just stare at me and wouldn't do it. And then he would just drive away. He would wave at them from the windshield, and give a little hand signal like "come on" from the windshield. And I was like, you know what? If you want them to come and get in your car and have a weekend with you, then the least you could do is get out of the car, squat down like at knee level and get at their eye level, and express to them that you would love for them to come or whatever it is. But that never happened. So I would film those exchanges to prove to the courts and to the commissioners and judges that I was not alienating or withholding, but that he would just drive away. It got to the point where he wouldn't even pull up to my house and would make the kids go down a couple houses to get to him. And then he would just do like a U-turn to avoid coming up to my house. And then I was then accused of harassment because I was filming these exchanges, again, to prove that I was not withholding and that I was sending them out and that I was taking them out and that he would just drive away. The commissioner held me in contempt for harassment and didn't even look at any of the footage, didn't care. And so then at that point, I didn't go outside anymore. And I was like filming that I wasn't out there coercing them or anything. Anyway, it was just an absolute nightmare trying to force them to go when he was not doing anything to help. And so he would drive away and I'd go back inside. And there was one time I remember where he said, "Naoma, open your bag. Is there even anything in it?" And she did, and there were clothes in there, like I did what I was supposed to do. So that like enraged me. But so yes, there are kids all over the nation that are being forced, that are being taken out of their homes. So I encourage you to watch on Hulu. It's The Nightmare Upstairs with Ty and Bryn, who barricaded themselves inside. And we were ordered to reunification therapy, which is not therapy in the least. It's therapy that is forces the kids to go sit with the parent that they don't want to be with, and basically tell them that their mom or their protective parent, is wrong, that she's brainwashed you, and your dad loves you, and you need to give him a chance. And I'm ordering you to go. And that was another thing I've been blamed of is brainwashing and the smear campaign and poisoning the well and just being toxic. I was called a liar. Like the things that I have been called in family court, I don't think I've ever been called anything worse, So that's been hard to swallow because the attorney opposing counsel was a Mormon bishop and was saying because of Julie's tendency to lie and because she's toxic and because she's an unfit mother and because she has poisoned the community with her smear campaign. And I was like, what the heck are you even talking about? He left me on his own free will and choice, and I had nothing. I gotta make sure this is green. I gotta make sure my microphone is still on. I had nothing to do with his decision. I begged him to stay. Anyway, that's another podcast. It's already been recorded. Another question, dating. You deserve a man to swoop you up and carry you. And you're dang right. I do. But I have no desire to date. And I know I'm probably scorned and bitter and resentful. And yes, I am. And have I forgiven? No. But I don't have any desire to date. Part of that is because, I'm not dumb. I know I have 8 kids, and I know that, what guy is going to want to take that on? 8 kids, and not to mention hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal debt. So it's like I'm a lost cause, And I know that's not true. I know that there are men, people say all the time, there are good men out there that want a family. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't even want to go there. I don't want to get, set my heart on something. It's been broken so badly that I don't even want to go there again. And the chances are very slim to none with my situation. Well, maybe in 10 years you can, date someone who wants a family. I'm like, okay, but in 10 years, I'll be in my mid 50s. I'll be almost 55 years old. And I really don't want to, like, get into the wife role and cook for him and clean for him and do his laundry. And do I have to do those things? No, but it's just like in me, It's how I was raised. It's like what I thought to be true and to be good and righteous was helping him to provide. What I didn't realize is that I should have been providing. I don't know about secretly, but I should have been earning my own money all along. And I was a sugar mama for 5 years, until he got citizenship and could get higher paying jobs and could drive to these jobs. Like, I was working 5 jobs. So yeah, it still makes me mad and it still hurts because I was used. At least that's what it feels like. Do the kids see their dad and spend time with him? I think that's the most common question. I'm curious what the kids' thoughts are on the petitioner. Do they want to see him or are ordered to? So I already answered that. There's like zero contact with Adana. There's zero contact with Xander. And when I say that, like, maybe he'll send a text. I think Xander heard from him last in July, so almost a year ago. It's kind of this situation where if you feed into him, he will feed into you. I mean, I didn't really see that with my own relationship with him. It was always give, 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 and a lot of take, take, take on the other side. But he does not have a relationship or try with the ones that don't give him any energy, if that makes sense. How do you deal with the members of the church hooting and hollering for the ex? It bugs me. I'm not going to lie. All I can say is that not everybody knows. They don't know the context. They don't know the truth. They don't know the damage or the pain. And then there's always, there's 2 sides to every story and we don't know what happened behind closed doors. Well, that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm here on this podcast telling you that he left, decided he did not want to be married anymore, is clearly dating and living his bachelor life, which I think he must have been wanting while he was married to me. I think that he feels like this marriage wasn't what he hoped or thought it would be, and that I'm a drag and I bring him down. I'm negative, and I control him and I tell him what to do, and I make him feel like, I'm belittling him and his manhood. Like, I'm sure he was like, I'm done with this. I mean, it's all I can think of, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, loving and serving and freaking sacrificing myself to make him happy. So all I can say is that I don't think church members all know or understand. And if they do know, they'll make excuses for him because that's always what happens. Or they choose not to judge. They'll say, well, I'm not here to judge him. I think that's just a big fat cop-out. I'm not here to judge him. Well, yeah, you don't have to judge him, but we do and should, and we've talked about this with Carly before, have righteous judgment to know what kind of people that we're working with and dealing with. And I think that the most deceiving and difficult and hard thing to watch is when he's doing church things like firesides and speaking engagements at the tabernacle or whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying that it's not good and that the things probably are service oriented and helpful, but I mean, it's just, you left your eternal family to build the kingdom away from us when we should have been building our eternal unit. And I will never understand the hypocrisy. Does and can the court take into consideration that X doesn't pay any support? Yeah, they do, but they're just so freaking slow. So, for example, he's extremely behind in his support payments to me, but because he was granted some equity in the home, we have just been trying to say, okay, well, since you owe this much, let's just exchange your arrears for equity, the equity that you have in the house. They about equal the same, if that's any indication of how much he owes. And he won't reply. And his attorney says, ghosts us pretty much. And And so it's like I've basically been buying my house from him for the last 4 years, not knowing that. But because he hasn't paid, instead of the court being like, oh my gosh, laying down the hammer, they it's always finding a way to balance everything out, equalize the poverty, as they say. So let's just, take his equity out of the cars that they own. Let's take his equity out of the house that they own. Let's take the royalties that he owes and just balance it all out, and she can have the house. But okay, that's great. But like I'm not surviving. It's not fluid money. Like I'm drowning. The equity in the house is not paying the bills. You know what I mean? So they can order all they want, but it doesn't mean that he's going to pay. And then you have to continue to pay your attorneys to file motions to enforce him to pay, and you don't have the money to file the motions, which are $1,000 a piece. And then hopefully the court will hear your case, and then you go to a hearing to say, look, he's so behind, please enforce him to pay. But then the other side argues and says, well, it's because she's poisoned the community and he can't get a job. This is all her fault. And it happened to me over and over and over again, because they would show things that I would say that, show that I went to the bishop's storehouse for food, and that's disparaging him and painting him in a bad light. And so the commissioner would agree and say, well, it sounds like you are the reason he's not able to get work. And so I'm sorry, but I'm finding you in contempt. And I just would cry. I would just cry in my poor attorney's office because of the unfairness of it all. So they can order all they want. It doesn't mean he pays it, and it doesn't mean anything happens when he doesn't. That's why this system is so corrupt. Let's see. If you could go on a weekend trip, where would you go and what would you do? Melanie, I don't even know. It would be with you. Probably to Mexico with you, because she can navigate that place. She doesn't even speak Spanish, and just owns that country. So I really have no idea. I haven't even been able to think about that. Something for me. If I could go on a weekend trip, I don't know. I think Las Vegas is fun. Maybe I would go to California. I have no idea. Someone take me somewhere, please. The problem is finding the care for the kids at home. That's been the tricky part. At what age can your kids decide whether or not they see the petitioner for visits? Well, I think Utah law says 14, but that's a bunch of bull crap. Even my attorney was like, no, that's just the courts can weigh in, or the kids can weigh in when they're 14, and the courts can listen and take, what they're saying into into play, they can hear it. But almost everyone in a high conflict divorce battle is fighting for their kids until they, quote, age out. And you don't age out until you're 18 and become an adult. So no, the 14-year-old thing is a bunch of BS. Don't buy it. Any more dog litters planned? Yes, I thought it was so much fun. It was so rewarding. It took my mind off of the stress of litigation. And then because of those cute puppies, we were able to buy, a vacation. And I even messaged my lawyers and said, I'm going to do this vacation. I know I owe you a crap ton of money. I'm going to give you my whole tax return, but I want to be honest and upfront that this is what I'm going to do, because I have to do it before Adana is a freaking adult. She's going to be 17 by the time we go. And I have to do this. And they were understanding and sweet and said, go have a great time. In hindsight, what were the red flags that you saw earlier in your marriage? Oh, geez. I mean, there's so many. I just decided that I was judging, right? And to look past them. He didn't drive a car. He wasn't a citizen. He didn't have a paying job that was consistent. He was black. And in Utah and in my family, that was a big deal. And in the culture, you don't date outside of your race. My back is hurting. I need a chair. But I mean, those were the red flags that I could look beyond and past. And really, those things never were the biggest problem. His race wasn't a problem. His age was not a problem. He had a lot more energy than me half the time, but that's also because I was getting no sleep and I was up with babies and nursing and postpartum and all the things. But, he had late nights too, but with his gigs. But things like the running, the fleeing, the conflict. I think I said this on the podcast before, but here's a couple of examples. One of the kids pooped in the pool. Okay. And instead of, I mean, I realize that that's not a fun thing to clean up or to even report that has happened, because then you're ruining the swimming for everybody else. But instead of like taking care of it, okay, maybe don't go and tell the pool owner and or whatever, right? And get, if you're the only ones in the pool, get it out. I mean, it's still, disgusting, but let's just say you don't go and tell anyone, you just take care of it yourself, even though the pool is still contaminated. I'm hearing you. I know what you're saying, but let's just say you do at least that. That's one thing, but he just bailed, so grabbed all the kids, let's go, let's go, let's go, and just like left it and ran. Same thing happened when we went to a dinner at some club, country club, and there was a inflatable Santa. And I've told this story before, so you might have heard it, but he like popped it on accident, and it just was like deflating, and all the air was coming out, and he's like, we both were cracking up. It was like, and then what did he do? He ran out of the building and like left me there, as if like if someone were to get busted, it was going to be me. The fact that he left England and came to Utah with nothing. I mean, there's a lot of people that do that, and it's heroic in so many different regards. And immigrants have done so much and come so far. So it's kind of like I looked at him as like the pioneer of his family. But he, after learning more, it's like as though he fled England instead of, I'm sure he wanted to come to America and build a different life, but really he was, he always said that he wanted to chase good, wholesome music. And I believe that. I think that he did. But it's because he was dropped by his music label. I mean, the record label, they let go of them. They dropped the contract. They didn't renew. They said, we're done, basically. And it was only then that he left the country. And I don't know everything. These are just like my own assumptions and things that I look back on, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was a therapist that said, do you see the pattern, Julie? I was like, what? Running is his pattern. He flees when there's conflict. And I think maybe, probably not, but maybe if someone mentioned that to me when we were dating, like, do you see his pattern? Do you see what he's doing every time that there's something that's uncomfortable to deal with? He bails and leaves you to take care of the mess. I think maybe then I would have seen more clearly, but he was so good at masking everything, and that's what they do. They are masters at it. So that was kind of a long answer. Or let's see. If you could go back knowing all that would happen, would you do it all over again? That's a phone call coming in from Adana. I don't know. I don't know, because there are people that say, well, you wouldn't have your 8 kids. And that's true, but also it's not like God in heaven is going to not allow these spirits to come to earth because I didn't marry the petitioner. Like, he would have sent them if they're, have an existence, a premortal existence, and are alive, wanting, their spirits are alive, wanting to come to earth. He's going to send them somehow, whether that's to me or some other family. And so there's times where I degrade myself, and I'm like, well, they could have gone to a more stable home that's not broken. And I know everyone's like, no, your kids were sent to you, and you're the one that's supposed to be there for them, and God chose you, and I hear all those things, but part of me is like, I don't know. At the same time, I've learned a lot, and I've kind of seen what I'm made of, and it's helped me grow closer to God and Jesus Christ, and it's helped me to build more faith and more confidence, I guess. It's turned me into a different person, for better and for worse. Like, I've been super bitter and resentful, but I've also been brave and proud and strong and compassionate. So that's a hard one for me to answer, and I don't know. I know people all the time are like, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I don't know. I don't know, because it's been really painful. Um, and I just think about these kids and how they still would have come. They might have just gone somewhere else, you know? And maybe I would have had different kids. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe that's a really immature, shady, shallow answer, but that's how I feel. Um, do you forgive Alex or still have a lot of anger? No, I have not forgiven. And I mean, it's hard when you see someone like Erica Kirk just say, I forgive him, the killer, supposed killer of her husband. And I'm like, okay, either she is like this Christ like person or it's super fake and an act because he's still alive and I have not forgiven. And it's hard to forgive when you have this sword in your chest and it's twisting and turning with every new, you know, failure, whether my own failure or from him. It's hard to come to terms with forgiveness and taking the high road when you've taken it for so long and you have excused for so long and defended him for so long just to be kicked to the curb, the literal curb. So it's made me more compassionate. I'm sure forgiveness will come. I'm sure I'll get there, but not yet. No, I'm not there. I'm not there yet. And I think it's okay. And that's why I don't force my kids to forgive because they're not ready either. Um, what made you see and understand you were being abused? It wasn't until Dana Tingy said to me, basically, that his actions were abusive. And when she said, you need to do a discovery and find out if he's hiding money, I was like, he's not hiding money. And she's like, you don't know that. And I said, well, yeah, I do because I was the one managing all the money. And she's like, well, you don't know that. You don't know what he has or has not done with the money. If he has other accounts and you're not on them, you don't know what he's done. And I was convinced that I knew everything and that he would not do something like that and not hide it from me or not tell me. And so when I did a discovery on that and saw things that were spent that I had no idea about, and then learning that just the fact that he left us literally high and dry is emotional and psychological abuse, and blaming me for the reason he left, making me believe that it was me, making me believe that I'm the reason that he's not successful and that he's played all of his cards and this is the only thing that will work and that God has told him to do it. That was emotional abuse and spiritual abuse. But I believed it. I believed him. I was just like, well, gosh, maybe he did. Maybe he did have these revelations in our temple that the Lord told him to divorce me. Maybe he really did. But in my heart of hearts, I was like, no, God does not do that. And I've been a good wife and I've been faithful to him and to God and to the church. And I have loved him. And it's like I have to reconvince myself that no, I am a good person and I am a good wife. I'm trying to be a good mom. And I really wanted him to know how much I cared for him. And yes, I threw the parties and threw the 40th birthday party, threw the 50th birthday party, surprised him all the time with fun things that he loved, with concerts, with going to Vegas and driving a fast car, with going to, having his mom come in town as a surprise and buying him a car and making him all of his African Nigerian food and having it delivered to him while he was traveling, from some random African shop in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas or something. Like, I tried to really express how much I loved and cared for him. And so I have to sit there and say to myself, like, no, you were good to him and you loved him. And this is betrayal. It's betrayal, the deepest kind of betrayal. And it's abandonment, and financial neglect is abusive. And I've had people in my life tell me that I've taken it too far. I've had people in my life tell me that maybe I'm the narcissist. I've had people in my life tell me that, well, maybe, you knew what you were getting into and you should have loved him the way he was and the way he dealt with things. And I'm like, I did. And I did let him be the way he wanted to be. So I'm going to have to continue this because I got to go pick up a kiddo. Okay, I'm back. If you're watching on YouTube, the lighting has changed quite a bit. It's like 4 or 5 hours later, which is kind of convenient when you're at home. I actually look a little bit more disheveled, but it's convenient when you're at home because I can just kind of come and go as I please and take breaks in between, and I can edit when I want, kind of thing, or when I have a second. So anyway, I took a little bit of a break to go pick up kids, do some laundry, clean up after dogs, all the things, but I'm back. And I've got some more questions for you. I'm trying to like speed through them because I've got more. Okay, have you had any issues with authorities since neighbor reported your Rover business? Mabel, don't do it. I feel like that cute Instagram video where she, like, the little farm girl has her, I don't even know what they're called, ostriches, and she's like, Emmanuel, don't. Emmanuel, don't. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but Mabel's messing with my cords, my dog. Speaking of dogs. Yeah, I had Sandy City come by. I've had animal control called on me 3 or 4 times. I had Sandy City come by and say that I had to comply with, gosh, this feels so close. I had to comply with like the city codes, and that if I'm running a business that I have to have this and that and that and this. And I'm like, well, so are you and then I looked up the things that I had to have, like a big kennel. It's called a running kennel. And I was like, why do I have to have a kennel outside if I have a fenced yard? But I guess it's because it has to have shelter. I was like, I have a doghouse right here that they can go in. But anyway, so I was going to go through all the process of getting that, and it has to be so many square feet by so many square feet. But then they said, and watching dogs in Sandy is prohibited. And I was like, but we can have chickens and we can have horses. What am I missing here? This makes no sense. I was like, tell that to the other 2,000 Rover, clients that are watching dogs. So I didn't say that any of these things, of course. I just had it delivered to me, this like city conduct code that I had to abide by. But by the time that they were going to come back to either cite me or see if I complied, all the dogs that I had were gone. So nothing has happened since then. So I have no idea. I'm still watching dogs. If the neighbor wants to go ahead and retaliate, then all we have to do is call some police for any violation and he goes to jail because he's violated it so many times. I've had cops weekly to my house. So go ahead and mess with me. Bring it. This is Melanie, one of my besties again. What type of guy do you want when you choose to start dating again? I don't want to start dating again. And she knows it. I don't want to do this again. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone will swoop me off my feet and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I never knew this existed. But right now, I just don't see it. And I have no desire. What's your favorite type of dog to take care of? Just for sure a doodle, because the shedding is crazy. There's so many shedding dogs that I am vacuuming, but then it clogs your vacuum. So I am sweeping like my brains away. So I think the dogs that are the most low maintenance, the sweetest, the most friendly, the ones that sleep the best, like my outlook perspective has changed because it's not so much if they're cute, it's if they are low maintenance and are easy to handle. Why is your favorite friend Melanie so awesome? She's amazing. Okay. Were there any signs you could see looking back 4+ years ago that petitioner had leaving in mind? Oh, that the petitioner had leaving in mind. So she's asking, like, was there anything that would have clued me in that he would have left? Well, he left when my oldest, Adana, was 6 months old. It was only for 3 days, but he left. He told me he wanted out then, and I was like, what the crap? We have a 6-month-old baby. Like, what are you doing? And I remember him saying, well, do you think a baby is enough for me to stay? And, like, not in a cruel way, but it was more like, well, that's not enough for me to stay. It's not enough. It's not good enough for the kid either. And I was like, but we have, I believe in eternal marriage and getting married in the temple and making covenants before God. I was like, yeah, but we have covenants to each other before God. And it just didn't seem to matter to him. And I just could not understand. So he left then, but the bishop, of our church or our ward kind of hunted him down and convinced him to come back and had said, you're not going to, how do I say this? It was like, if you choose to do this, then your career is not going to be, very reputable because you just had a baby and then left your wife and baby. So, and your audience is Mormon mothers for the most part, So, I was grateful that he came home. I was proud of him and I willingly forgave and loved him. And we had 7 more kids. But then later, I kind of think when he started seeing a spiritual healer that he called, she wasn't a therapist, but he called her his therapist. She mostly did what he called spiritual healing. And I'm like, yeah, but isn't that through Jesus? So, but he kept it from me for the most part. I didn't know he was visiting with this woman, and I don't know what kind of things she planted in his mind. But I know she's worked with quotes, I say the term loosely, with other people. And in my opinion, she's a homewrecker. But I don't know what was said in the meetings, but things were so off during COVID, and I think that maybe his confidence plummeted. Mine did, right? I asked if I should get another, like a part-time job, and it offended him. And he said to me, well, how do you think that makes me feel? And I was like, well, it's like we're in 2020. This is not 1954, like where I'm expected to stay home. Like this, we are a two-parent, like 2-income household. Is that what it is? Both parents have to work these days, and I am capable and willing while all of your stuff is on hold, because entertainment was the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. And he didn't like that. So, but I just kind of watched his, I guess, aura, like the teens say, deflate a little bit, because he wasn't getting the acknowledgement and the praise and the things he has to have to survive. Emotionally, he was not receiving, because it wasn't enough to be at home with 8 kids, 7 kids, and a pregnant, probably hangry wife, and no money. So when people say, were you blindsided? Yes. Were you surprised? Like, not really, because he had done it before. And then when he left the second time, he said to me, the only reason I came back was because the bishop said that I would never flourish as an LDS artist being divorced. And I was like, that's why you came back? That's why. For your career? For your image and reputation? Like, is that what did you really come back for? I don't really like to talk about it much because it's painful and it brings back a lot of horrible emotions, and then it brings back a lot of the gaslighting and the blame that I placed on myself when really it had nothing to do with me. How much do you think that cultural differences played into the way he treated you? That's a good question. Are you saying his Nigerian culture or Mormon culture? Because they're very strong cultures, right? I remember him raising his voice at me, and I told him he couldn't do that, and he said, this is just what Nigerians do. This is how we communicate. And I was like, no, that's, well, first of all, we're not in Nigeria, but no, that's not how this works, I think more of it was his career choice as opposed to his ethnicity, because he basically grew up on his own. I think that if he were born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, but he raised himself there, he would still be the same kind of person. Because at the end of the day, he didn't receive the nurturing that he needed. He didn't receive the love that he needed. He didn't have parents that he needed. He was abandoned himself. And we know that history repeats itself. I mean, my grandfather committed suicide, and then 45 years later, my uncle did the same thing in the same place in the same way. You look at Whitney Houston and what's her name? Bobby, I can't remember her daughter's name. She did it the same way. And I mean, I just thought that he was like the pioneer for his family and had moved past all of that. And I was like so proud of him. But it turns out that he has done exactly what was done to him, which I never thought would happen. I don't know that he did either. Is there anything that Alex could do that would enable you guys or repair or be able to move forward amicably? Hey, what are you chewing on, dog? Why do dogs eat toilet paper? Oh my gosh. I think I know why, but that was gross. The answer to that question, if you would have asked me that maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would have been like, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have 8 kids. We've got 8 good reasons to work it out and for him to come home. And yes, I'll accept him. And yes, I'll forgive freely. And I want nothing more for him to come back. And it's a miracle. And this is what I've prayed for and fasted for and wished for and pleaded for and hoped for. But now the answer to that is no. The answer to that question is no. Now that I have more knowledge of what has happened, now that I can kind of see more clearly, eyes to see and ears to hear, you know, how we hear that phrase. Now that I look back and see things that were said and the way that I was treated and left and basically had to find a way to fend for myself and my 8 kids, like, no, you do not get to have me back. He's probably listening and saying, well, good, because I don't want you back. But no, I will not allow myself to continue the further degradation of my soul, if that makes sense. I will not allow myself to go back to something that broke me. I have forgiven over and over and over again, and like I said, defended over and over, and I forgave him when he came back the first time, and he dumped me twice while we were dating. And should I have seen the signs then? Yes. Was I an idiot? Yes. Should I have had more self-respect for myself as a 25-year-old? Yes. But I also was a lot more immature, more naive, and stupid. You know, I wanted to believe the best in people. I wanted to not judge like I'm sure people are doing now. And I wanted to make sure that I was, you know, right before God and not, you know, accusing someone of not being someone I wanted them to be when they weren't given the same privileges and luxuries that I had, if that makes sense. So moving right along here. Lots of these questions are the same. It's mostly, how often do the kids go? Well, how often do the kids go stay with the petitioner? Our custody arrangement is basically the Utah Code 30-3-35, which is the minimum parent time. So I have sole physical custody of the kids, which he just freely gave, you know, because he has to tour, you know. He's got a tour all over the land, and so it's just leave it to me, right? Which I am grateful for because I know so many women would give anything to have that, and I realize that. But it, you know, it also comes with no breaks. It comes with no money. It comes with completely carrying the entire load by yourself, and it comes with you having to be both the nurturer and the disciplinarian, and having to be both is rough, you know. So that minimum time is every other weekend and once a week on Wednesday nights. It does not mean that those are all practiced or used. I've got another dog chewing on something. You guys, leave me alone. They're chewing on scrunchies and elastics. So he doesn't come every Wednesday night, and he doesn't take every weekend. So, I mean, it might be once a month. It might be twice a month. It might be not at all. No questions. Just wanted to say you are unbelievably strong. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Do you have to pay alimony to your ex? No, he was ordered to pay alimony to me. But does he is the better question. Do you think the petitioner gets more leniency because he is famous and a man of color? Yes, I do. I also think that, it's like racial reversal. It's super strange to like watch unfold before my eyes. I think that he's been given a lot more leniency through the church and any kind of disciplinary action, because I don't believe that any bishop or stake president wants to like hand down any consequences or accountability to a person of color, because they don't want to maybe have the race card pulled on them, or they don't want to be known as racist or called that or even accused of it. So, okay, you dogs need to get out. Oh, sorry, Skippy. Out. So yeah, I think it's been unfair, quite frankly, because if this were to happen to any white man or white woman for that matter, we would not be getting the same luxuries and the same treatment. I really believe that. And I think the same with the court. I remember in one of the settlement offers that came in from opposing counsel, they said, Julie's a white woman. She's fine. 40% of white women remarry in 5 years. So basically what's she complaining about? And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, what if I had put in the paperwork or in my settlement offer to him, oh, he'll be fine. Or, you know what? This percentage of black men don't pay support, so this is to be expected, or this percent, or whatever. And I'm not saying that as a dig to anyone of color, because that's not what this is about. It just was interesting to watch how he has been let off the hook so many times, because A, he's an entertainer, and so he's very good at the act, and B, he is black and has, many people batting their eyelids and wanting to rub shoulders with him because it's cool, and they get to say that I have this one black friend, and it happens to be him. So he gets a lot of the benefit of all of the doubts. So yes, I do think that he gets more leniency. Do you have a solidified custody agreement in place as of now? As of now, we do, but I'm sure that will be modified later to actually reflect what is really happening. How can people better support mothers in your situation? I love this question and appreciate you so much asking it, because I would never have even thought about asking this question myself. I think for me, one of the most hurtful things that people say is, you're still in it 4 years later and you're still in litigation. Like, why? What is it that he wants? What is it that you want? Like, what are you guys fighting about? And they don't understand what is happening in family court, and that we are literally trapped. We are handcuffed to the court system. And if he files a motion, then I have to respond. Because if I don't, he just gets what he gets. He gets what he wants because he had the money to file it. And he gets, if I don't respond or file something as a counter, then the court just gives him what he wants, and vice versa. So I have to reply. I have to pay the money for unless I go pro se. But, there's so many times when you go pro se and you don't know what you're doing and you screw up and you lose anyway. So that's why I'm so grateful to Steve Christensen and Wes Hutchins with Christensen Law, who have literally guided me through this and held my hand, as well as Dana Tingy with High Ground Divorces. She's a coach and strategist and domestic violence national expert. But they'll say, like, well, why are you still in this? Isn't it done? What are you fighting about? And it is so hurtful, because we don't want to be in this. I'm sure he doesn't either. But it's like you have this, it's like I'm like got one handcuff on my right hand and it's on his left, and neither of us can do anything about it. Unless, it's so hard to explain unless you've listened to a lot of the previous podcasts on the corruption in family court and how they just cripple families financially. And if you don't respond, like, you are SOL, because it will go in the favor of who's ever filing the motion if you don't respond. And then, they might file something 12 years later. So I guess my answer is, I wish that people if they don't understand, ask. Just ask. Chances are she or he wants to talk about it and wants a safe place to be able to do it without somebody saying, still? Well, why? This is a loaded question because I could talk about the legal part of it. I could talk about the actual temporal needs. There's my dog, sorry. Temporal needs of a single mother, how, the food, the cost of diapers, the cost of... my dog's nose is in YouTube at the moment if you're watching. The cost of, like, how are you going to pay for your house? How are you going to pay for insurance? And as the kids get older, and missions and weddings, and like that's like a whole different question and a whole different response and answer because, yeah, she needs money. Yeah, she needs someone to vent to and not judge her for the choices she made with the what is it? What she chose to do with the decisions that she was given, if that makes sense. I know we've all heard that phrase before. Don't judge me for what I did when you don't know the choices that I was given, So it's being understanding. Aside from giving her money, giving her time, helping her find work that will help her to stay home with her children, helping her in the battle and telling her she can do this, and that, supporting her at trial, supporting her. My hands were shaking in a hearing with a commissioner, offering to go and be with her or him. My hands were literally shaking because I was waiting for the judge. Here's some toilet paper in my hand that she's been chewing on. Freaking gross, Mabel. I just got that out of her mouth, but I was shaking to death because I'm like, I've got this commissioner who was like deciding my fate. And the judge who's deciding my heart was like beating out of my chest when our decree came. And I didn't know what he ordered. Well, I guess it wasn't the decree, it was his ruling that came. I didn't know what he had judged. And it's having someone, like Carly always says, sit in the mud with you. And instead of saying, well, like, why? Well, how is it still happening? And I'm guilty of this. I only am saying this on the other side now. Like, I'm grateful for the trial, even though I hate it and it's been so horrible. It's helped me to become more compassionate and want to be more empathetic to people and more understanding, because you can't possibly know what this is like unless you are in it. Same with a miscarriage, same with the death of a child or a spouse or job loss. Like, you can't understand unless you've been through it, which is why I guess it makes the atonement of Jesus Christ that much more powerful for me. Knowing that there is at least one person that knows everything, you know what I mean? It's being there with the person who is struggling and sitting there with her and letting her feel all the feels and letting her, come up with resources that maybe she hasn't thought of, although she probably has thought of everything that she can think of, but dropping off something that you think that she needs. Mostly just being a listening ear, because my mom would even say, well, I just don't know what to do for you. And I'm like, I know, Mom, I don't know what to do for myself other than be able to talk about it. Like, I can't pay for therapy. If somebody paid for therapy, I have one sweet woman that was sending me milk every single week. And that was a need I didn't know I needed. We all need milk, but like, with teens now growing and Xander, who could drink a gallon by himself, it has been so helpful. And this is going to be the last question. How, because I'm getting the time here, how has dealing with Alex and the church, I should say the petitioner, how has dealing with the petitioner and the church made you feel about the church? I could do a podcast about this all over again. I know I've done one before. I should link all the podcasts at the bottom. I don't think I'll ever remember which ones I've even referred to, but luckily for me, I served a mission and was able to ground my own testimony on my own beliefs and my own experiences in the mission field in Paraguay. And I have had my own answered prayers. I have felt the Spirit touch me. Not often. I'm sure it does help. He helps me and does prompt me and inspire me all the time. But the times that I've noticed and realized and recognized that it's the Spirit, encouraging me to do something or telling me to make a certain decision, it's been few and far between. But I have felt it. And so I had that foundation. And so when I felt betrayal from my church leaders and from the church, which I know so many women are feeling and are just like wrestling with the thoughts in their minds of how could you believe someone who is abusing me? Why won't you listen to me? Why won't you believe me? Even, I mean, I gave my bishops and stake presidents and general area authority, I gave them evidence. And they still were like, well, it took 2 years, I feel like, before I was really heard and really understood. It's because people have to see it for themselves. And so that rocked me a bit. I think I've told the story of when I had told my bishop that, the petitioner hasn't been paying support and should not be having the same privileges of priesthood obligations or rights as someone else who is, doing all that they should. I'm trying to word this so carefully and it's bothering me, but basically I didn't believe that he should be baptizing when he was behind on support, when he had abandoned all responsibilities. And it bothered me mostly because I know it was confusing for my kids. It was confusing for my nieces and nephews who, were serving missions or about to serve missions. And I don't know why I felt this duty to, make it make sense for my kids. It didn't make sense to me, but I could live with that. But I didn't want my kids being like, well, wait a second, what the heck? Why does it apply to all of us, but not to him? And that's been difficult to see him doing the firesides and singing with, some church organization or narrating for comeuntoChrist.org or whatever on their Instagram. It's difficult because it's hypocrisy and it feels like deceit right before my very eyes, and I'm watching it unfold in real time. And anyway, that's all been really hard. But I remember saying to my bishop, I didn't think that was okay. And he said, well, let me take this up to the stake president. And then the stake president was also a little bit like, well, crap, what do we do? So then they took it to the area authority, who then made a call, and so the bishop, when he came back to me and he said to me, Julie, we know and understand that he has abandoned you. We know that he is not providing for you. But because he didn't abandon you for someone, he is eligible to baptize the kids. And my jaw dropped. I just was like, are you hearing yourself? Who has made this decision? Did you? And he's like, well, it's been uncomfortable. And my bishop was totally on my side. He's like, look, my hands are tied. Basically, it comes down to the petitioner's bishop who holds the keys over him. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can scream until I'm blue in the face and shout to the rooftops what's happening, which I kind of am. But until his judge in Israel, his bishop or his leader, catches wind of what's happening and actually implements the duties, of his stewardship over the petitioner, am I making any sense? Then nothing will change. Because I understand that he's going to hear the petitioner out and he's going to listen and understand, but like, at what point is it black and white? I know there's so much gray, but like, when is it black and white here? Are you current with your support? Yes or no? Well, I'm trying. Well, it doesn't say, are you trying to pay? It says, are you current? So I was looking at my bishop like a deer in the headlights. Like, are you serious? Like, this is so degrading to me. And he said, I know. And I don't agree, but like, this is the leader of the leader, And that's when I got a little fired up. And that's when I had conversations with the area authority myself and sent evidence to him. And that is when I have gone upwards of the priesthood ladder, if that makes sense. Because it just ticked me off. I'm not gonna lie. It made me really mad. And it all came down to the same answer. Well, it's up to his bishop. Well, his bishop's being fooled. He's got the wool pulled over his eyes, people. Like, come on, wake up. Here's the evidence. Here is the evidence. That's what you said. You needed court documents that show what is behind. And here's my spreadsheet. That's not good enough for you? Okay, well, here's the spreadsheet from the Office of Recovery Services showing lack of payment, showing that here's our messages back and forth showing that he doesn't reply to anything and he ghosts me. Like, is that not abandonment? Like, what else do you need? But I read something, because that's enough for many people to be like, I am done with this church and the sexism. I'm done. And I hope that nobody grabs that piece of this podcast and leaves out the rest of the context. And I'll see headlines or something that say, Julie's leaving the church. She's done. Because wait for the context. I can see how so many people would say that. And I wouldn't blame them. But for me, my parents would always say, like we've always heard, well, the people aren't perfect, but the church is. And I was like, ugh, there's got to be something more. And I remember reading, I think it was by President Benson or President Kimball. I've said it on the podcast before also, when he said, there have been times when church leaders have made horrible mistakes and church leaders have taken, too much power among themselves and they've practiced unrighteous dominion and they have sided with the abusers and they have caused more harm than good. Like this happens all the time. But we have to remember that this is not the church of Bishop Johnson or whoever it is. This is not the church of Stake President Williams or whoever it is. This is the church of Jesus Christ. So are you basing your anger and your disbelief and your rage and hurt feelings is that ruining your testimony of Jesus Christ and his church? Is it enough for you to walk away based on the decisions of an imperfect bishop or stake president? For some it is. But I had that foundation for my mission. I had that foundation of, what happens when everything implodes and you're left with you and your faith only? What happens then? What leg do you have to stand on? If like the crutch of your bishop or stake president or parents is gone, and you've been like uprooted or the wind has been knocked out of you or the rug has been pulled out from underneath you or you've lost your footing and your crutch is gone and now you're on your own. Like you have to have that belief for yourself, that faith for yourself. And I wanted to let God know that he could count on me to stay steadfast and he could count on me to be a missionary forever because I was one, He could count on me to teach my kids truth and righteousness and he could count on me to not leave. And that's the whole point of this podcast for me, was to tell women that they can stay, whether that's in the church or just believing in Christ or having a higher power that, forges you through the fire, that I want to be able to tell them not to give that up because of the abuse or the injustice of another man or woman in the courtroom or in the judicial system or in the church itself. And so that is a great conclusion for today's podcast. I just wanted to thank you all for being supportive and for listening. Sometimes I'm surprised that people still do. And hopefully it can be enlightening and hopefully I don't come across as resentful or spiteful. Hopefully I can come across like I'm not trying to punish anyone or drag his name through the mud, but this is all very matter of fact. This is what has happened. These are the things that I have felt. I understand that, childhood and the way we are raised and, our upbringing accounts for a lot of the way that we behave, and that he did not have the same privileges as me. And I had compassion for that and loved him and was ready to walk through fire with him. I just didn't realize that I would be walking through the fire, against him. I was going to say alone, but I know that I'm not alone. I have all of you. I have the Savior. I have Heavenly Father. I have family and friends who have seen it and who do know right alongside with me what I have endured and what so many women out there listening right now are currently enduring themselves. And I want you to know that I hear you and I see you and I pray for you like I pray for myself. And if you know I'm praying for myself, the power behind my prayers for me specifically, they're just as powerful for you. I want to close this in the name of Jesus Christ. But I'm not going to. But thank you for listening. What did you think about this podcast? I hope I don't come across like a total B word, but it's the truth from my heart, and it is the facts as I see them and understand them, and it's not over. But hopefully someday I can get on here and say it was all worth it. It was all part of maybe not the plan, but God weaved the plan in my favor. And hey, I think he will for you too. We'll see you next time.
So now you know what it means to be gritty. It can be dirty, but you're still so pretty. Now make a pledge and never take no